My name is Jane Carrothers, and I'm the widow of the university's second president, Fred Carrothers. I had 3 small children, and we arrived, it was 20 below. And it stayed that way for a couple of weeks, so you really couldn't take the children out. But the university supplied me with a housekeeper who was also kind of a nanny, which was wonderful, which I could dump the kids and go about all sorts of other interesting things. I had gone to school in Banff, and so I was happy to be back in Alberta.
I was the oldest son of the president of the University of Calgary, and I was very, very proud of that, and probably every kid I went to school with knew I was the eldest son of the president of the University of Calgary. I had some great perks, a few things. Whenever there was a campus or faculty Christmas party or something like that, I would remember arriving, and there were all these kids and all the organizers, mainly the wives and staff and stuff, would be telling kids, "Oh, you stop," and it was always, "Oh no, you go, you go, you can go." So I felt like a VIP. So that was great. I'm a sports fanatic. In fact, I'm in the golf business as a professional. I've been very active in sports my whole life. And I got to go on the sidelines and run around during the Dinos football games. I used to go into the locker room of the Dinos hockey games in between periods and get to meet the players and stuff like that. And so that was like absolutely bliss to me. I also remember one of my great memories here was of the annual pie fight between the student president and my dad. To be 7 or 8 years old and see your father getting creamed in the face with a pie was pretty vivid. So I'll never forget that. I seem to remember tricycle races as something going on as well.
The faculty wives were trying to get going because the university was pretty new. And so there was lots of scope. But there were a lot of delightful women, and I met them all, and we had fun from time to time, but not in an organized sort of way, not at that point. Because we had this beautiful big house, and because I liked entertaining, we often had people, interesting people, and I guess the most interesting person was Lester B. Pearson when he was Prime Minister, or whether he just finished being Prime Minister, and I can't remember. I need my number 2 son who remembers dates. Anyway, he was hardly old enough to stand up when Mr. Pearson came to our house for dinner. But Matthew, who's hiding in the weeds over there, had to wait a very long time because Pearson was invariably late, and he was invited for 6 o'clock, and I had scheduled dinner for 7, and I think we probably had dinner about 8. He was very late, and Matthew got very, very tired and sleepy. He looked very smart in his gray shorts and blue blazer, and managed to say, "How do you do, sir?" when the moment came.
Aww.
But one of my proudest moments, as I've always been a fan of Lester Pearson's, was having him for dinner.
One of the other cool things was at the house that we lived in were the parties that my mother mentioned. And as a kid, the leftovers the next day were absolutely phenomenal. So we were always, prowling the kitchen. "Oh, there's a party. Yeah, we go down." And so we had great meals the next couple of days on those leftovers. And we also were spoiled that the grounds crew of the University of Calgary would come and do the gardens and stuff. So in the winter, we had a perch that we would, anybody driving by, we were throwing snowballs at.
We used to have dances, my dear, faculty dances, and they were great. My husband was a very good dancer, and so I have very happy memories of that kind of party. And we were here for 5.5 years, so we probably had 4 or 5 dances during that time. So I enjoyed it enormously. I really did. I was lively, I was educated, I was free to do pretty much what I wanted. And I and two Calgary women, Louise Moore and Mary Galloway, started the Calgary French School, which is now the French and International School. So I guess that was my greatest accomplishment, to share with them in what has turned out to be a big school.
We were treated so well here, and I think one thing that's important to say about my father is how much he wanted to stay here when 1974 came around, and he had a big decision. He was heavily enticed by the federal government to leave his position here. The Prime Minister, some of the top people in business in Canada, to start the initial Institute for Research on Public Policy for Canada. So he made the very difficult decision to leave here, and we all were sad to leave. Montreal was different and exciting, obviously. If you can go anywhere after Calgary, I'd say Montreal is a great place, just because of the difference and all of that. And then the Olympics landed on our doorstep in 1976, so that was good for me. But I still think he probably, in hindsight, would still tell you that that was one of the toughest decisions he had ever had to make. Yeah, because his relationships here and the pride he had in the university was really palpable.